Hello students. So let us continue our web application builder project, mini project. So where we want to create a highly scalable, highly available website. In my first video I showed you how to create a website based on the code which was shared by the lab. We created a website over here, right? And the database also was existing on the same machine, and the database that was there was students database. So, and we could add rows from the website, etc. So now in this lab we are not going to create the website. We don't want to create it now. In fact, because the database cannot exist in the public subnet, it has to exist in the private subnet, so it has to be separated out and put up over here. So we are anyway going to create a students database using MySQL RDS, and we are going to create a multi-zone RDS. So this is kind of a kind of a highly available website. So if, let's say this is a read-write copy, on zone A, in case if something goes wrong, at least the rows can be read from over here. All the select queries actually ideally go to 1B, and all the write queries go to 1A. So let us try to do this. So how what is the steps to create such a database? So let me see if I can increase the font so that you can view it correct, little bigger. So in the first step you want to create a security group. So let me go back. So let us now just assume that I am in the private subnet. So I'm going to remove this diagram, and what we are looking at is a private subnet. This is where we want to create a database, right? Private subnet. So this would ideally be 1A. So when we are creating a database, it is actually creating a EC2 machine and installing the MySQL on that. That is what is happening. And the database MySQL is going to get created. Now in order to access MySQL, port number 3306 port has to be open. If you have to access the website, port number 80, but if you have to access a MySQL, you have to have port number 3306. So how do you do that? So in order to do that, in order to open the port, you have to create a security group, which is a EC2 firewall, right? This is a firewall. In this we want to have an inbound rule which says give access to 3306. Now the thing is, we don't want anybody on the internet to access this particular port. We don't want anybody to directly access the website. Directly access the database. It is in the private subnet. So whom do we want to give the access to? So ideally we want to, so let me see if I can reduce this. So this is your private subnet, right? So ideally we want to give the access to the website which we are creating in the public subnet over here. We want to give access to the website machine. So this is also a EC2 machine, so we want to give access to this particular EC2. Now as you remember, the way our network is, this is part of the bigger, you can say, bigger VPC, right? And what was the VPC range? The VPC range was 10.1.0.0/16. So this covered everything. Essentially it covered zone 1, all the machines in zone 1, and it covered all the machines in zone 2. So for the ease of to make it easy and not make it very complicated, we will say we are giving access to the entire VPC only. Means any machine inside the VPC can access this private subnet. So which means if I have a machine in public subnet, that machine also can access the database. So we want this particular access to be available, right? So in order to do this, and that's why we need to create a security group. We need to not only open 3306, but we need to tell whom it is open to. So we are going to say that it is open for 10.0.0/16 machines. So it will be open for, let me just so we are going to open port 3306 to all the machines in this particular range, which will cover all the machines so that we don't have much problem. So this is how, that is what it means, the creating the security group. The second thing we want to create is a subnet group, DB subnet group, database subnet group. So what is DB database subnet group? So database subnet group, so basically, so I'm just going to write it, or maybe a new diagram. So when we say DB subnet group, what we want to mention is where my database should be created, which, so in our case we want the database to be created in two zones, right? 1A and 1B. So we need to create a subnet group to define this subnet group. So once we define this group, we are going to attach this, we are going to mention this while creating the RDS. So automatically RDS will be attached to this subnet group, which will create in two zones for me. So that is how it will work, right? So we will create a subnet group, then we'll create the actual machine, and the machine will be DB T3 micro instance, 20 GB SSD. We'll allow the specific VPC to connect. We'll add the DB security group. We create the instance and get the endpoint. So this last part that we're talking about, this is very important. So what happens is, once everything is done, we get a link, a kind of a database link through which we can access, which is called the endpoint. Now why is this endpoint required? This is a link actually, so it will look something like HTTP colon something etc., but it is not accessible by everyone. Who will have access to this endpoint? Only to these machines over here, the 10.1.0.6, which means the machines in public subnet can access this endpoint. So here when you're creating EC2, you need to point the database host to your endpoint. Right now in your first video, when you created the website, it was pointing to the local machine, means the machine itself. On the same machine the database was there, but you need to change this host to point to this new endpoint, and ideally things work automatically once you give an endpoint. So essentially this link, the website gets separated from the database. Then the database is already created, for you. So in this video we're going to focus on the database part though, and in maybe next video we'll see how to move forward, but at least let us create the database. Okay, so now in order to create this particular lab, you can perform the same lab which you did as database. You perform this lab database as a service, right? So we are going to do something similar, in fact almost similar we are going to do. By the only thing is we're going to create our own additional database. So the steps that I mentioned is mentioned over here also. So what it says, create a security group, and then we'll and we'll give the access to, it says web security group, but in our case, as I told you, we're going to give the access to the entire VPC. So let us go ahead and do that. So where are we? Yeah, so we were here, right? So what do we do? Our first step will be to create security groups, right? So we'll show VPC. So we can go to VPCs. I don't think security group will be there in RDS. It has to be in VPC and EC2. But anyway, we're going to verify. So Aurora and RDS. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think we can create security groups from here. It is at the security groups are usually applied to EC2, and we can create at the VPC level. And but whatever security group you create, it is applied to EC2. So here you see subnet group, which we are going to come later and create it. So but for now, what are we going to do? We are going to go to our VPC, right? And we want to create a security group which we are going to attach to our database later. So let's go ahead and create a security group. So I'm just letting it load so that we can see if there's what all other security groups are there. It's taking time. Okay, so these are in the past all the security groups were created. So let me go ahead and create mine. So what am I going to say? This is my database security group, right? So I'm going to say cloud web app 2 database security group. This is the name I'm giving so that I can recognize it. So, and what does this database does? It allows access to MySQL database in the private subnet. And which is the VPC I'm going to use? So I am going to use Cloud Web App 2, right? Then I go ahead and define my inbound rule as I told you. And what am I going to select? And so ideally so let's go ahead and first do the MySQL part. So MySQL or MySQL, this fellow. So you see automatically 3306 comes. Now whom do we want to give access to? We don't want to give it to anywhere, right? We want to give only to our VPCs. And what is our VPC? So 10.1.0.0/16. So this will cover all the machines inside a VPC. And you can say this allows access to MySQL. Now it is quite possible that you want to log into this database machine and modify some things or fire some queries, because once you create a database, it doesn't allow you if you're creating a MySQL database, it doesn't give you a query editor in an easy way. So the best way is to use a command line to fire the query. So in which case we want to create a test machine over here, right? And if you want to add some rows, we'll add it from here. So this is going to be a test machine, so which we want to just use to access, we want to log into, we want to basically access both the machines and modify something. If we want to modify the website machine or we want to modify the database machine, we want to use this test machine. Now will this test machine have access to this box? Yes, because we have given the VPC all machines inside this VPC, right? So for that reason we want to add one more rule, making sure I am able to ping, right? So all I see, I should be able to ping my machine so that I can do this. And again I'm going to give access to 10.1. Actually, what do I do? SSH. Okay, yeah, want to do this, I guess. Outbound rule, just keep it as it is, and we are going to create a security group. So that's how security group is created, giving access to the MySQL. Now we are going to need this later, but whenever you are creating a machine, right, let's say this EC2, if you want to log into this machine from outside instead of this machine, let's say you wanted to log from laptop from outside, so your laptop is, let's say, outside, and this is your, let us assume this is your laptop. So if you want to access this from your laptop, then we have to use SSH, this which is later in the step, but I'm just going to mention it now. If you want to, so you can do like remote login using SSH into this machine, in case if you want to touch this machine for some reason, which usually is needed. And we are going to use a, so if this is your laptop, we are going to install a putty tool. So putty tool is a software which can be used to access. Now in order to access this SSH into it, we need the public private key file, which is the PPK file. And how do we get the PPK file? PPK file will get from PEM file. And how do we get the PEM file? Is when we using the key pair created for the EC2. So whenever we are creating the EC2 machine, we want to create a EC pair, we should not use walk key. Walk key, you will not get your PMP file. So you should create your own key pair over here. And instead of using walk key, you should create your own key pair. And once you create the key pair, it will give you the PM file. Once you download that PM file, you can create a PPK file using the putty tool itself, and through the putty tool you can SSH into this machine. If you are using this test machine and let's say you want to log into the machine, the best way is to create a test machine and then use Cloud9 tool. So that way you can log into your test machine. So it is a much better environment, Cloud9. It gives you more access and a better view compared to SSH access. You could have used SSH in this case also, but for test machine we may want to use Cloud9, but for EC2 we may also want to log in through here just to verify whether if all the files are okay on the website, etc. So I hope this is not very confusing. So what have we done? We have created a security group in the VPC that we wanted. So what is your next step? Your next step is to create a task 2, which is DB subnet group. So we have to go in the services. So even before you create a database, you need to create a subnet group. Okay. And we need to, so we are saying we want this subnet group and this particular VPC, in which case it will be our VPC, and we will add the subnets. And which subnets are we going to add? We are going to add 2 private subnets, right? Where the database has to be created. We are going to say we want to create it in private subnet 1A and private subnet 1B. So that is what we want to do. And those subnets already are going to have the CIDR, and we are just going to create it. So that is all, is that simple. So we go in the RDS section now. Right. So before we create the database, we want to create the subnet group. So later we are going to say create the RDS instances, the total number of instances as per the subnet groups. So I already have my previous subnet group, so I'm not going to use that. That is for a different VPC. So I'm going to name my subnet group. So cloud web app 2 database subnet group. So here we are going to say private subnets for my databases. Then which VPC I am going to create? I am going to use web app 2. This is the VPC where my subnets are, so I am going to use that. And it says availability zone US East 1A and 1B, which is already selected, right? So if I don't want to use the two zones, I can remove one, but I want to use both, right? So which subnets I'm going to use in this? I'm going to use private subnet. This is where my database is going to go. Cloud web app 2 subnet private 2 and private 1. So I've added these two subnets. Okay, so it says for multi-AZ DB cluster, you must select 3 subnets in 3 different zones. But I think for replica, two zones will be enough. For only for when you're creating a full copy of the database, means read-write database, that time we require 3, I think. So I just go ahead and create this. So I'm going to create a group with 2 private subnets part of it, and go ahead and create it. Right. Let us anyway first we'll see if my previous example. So here I have not created three subnets, right? So I don't think it is required. So this particular subnet group, I have my private subnets, which is part of which VPC? It is part of this VPC. This VPC is basically my Cloud Web App 2 VPC. You see, Cloud Web App 2 VPC. So that's how we create a subnet group. So then we move on to our third step, right? Is actually creating a multi-AZ DB instance, task number 3. So we're going to create a database which is a MySQL, and we'll say multi-AZ DB, and we will give a DB instance a name. We will give a username password exactly as it is given, not in this. So this is a different lab. So we want to give the password as per your cloud web application instructions. So here, if you notice, actually I'm not sure, I don't think it is here. I don't think it's mentioned over here, but it is mentioned in that link. Whenever you're creating a website, so you see this code, when you download this code, it downloads, if you see on the bottom of the screen, it says user data script phase 2 sh. So when you download that file, you are looking at sh file, right? Phase 2, this one. So let's open this file and see what is there in that file. So if you notice, as I told you, they whenever you're creating that website, it says the host. The host is it could be it is a kind of a local box it uses. It uses the username node app, password is student12, and database as students. So we want to use the same database name, same username, password, just for the ease, and host will later change to the endpoint, as I told you. Here we should, so we'll come back to this file is little modified. I modified in my case because so here if you see what it is trying to do, is trying to create a database, but I'm not going to use a script to create a database. I'm going to create it myself right now. So I'm going to create the students database, and I want this table to be created. So I'm going to create this table, and I'm going to add some dummy rows just to verify whether my SQL database and the table name is correctly created. So that is what all I want to achieve. But what I wanted to mention is the username is node app, password is student12, and DB name is capital students. So what we are going to do, that's what we are going to do in our next step. So let's go back to our RDS, and we already created our subnet group, as I told you. So now we are going to do task 3, which is actually creating the database. Okay, so we are going to create the database with full configuration. So this screen might look differently on different machines, so you want to go with the full configuration. So create, and we are going to create a MySQL database, which is this one, right? The third option which I had on my list. Okay, so MySQL is selected, and it's a little slow, I'm not sure why, but let's go ahead, full configuration. So we don't want to create a production version, we want to create a dev test version just for our testing purpose, right? And we do want to create a multi-zone, right, the way I told you. So which will require, it will create two databases. One is a primary one and one is your standby. Oh sorry, which one we want to create? Yeah, so this one requires 3 instances and this one requires 2. Okay, so it seems like this is a full copy. So I thought this is a replica, but this seems to be like a full copy. I don't know why I said that, but it seems like this is a full copy, but it's a standby, it is not active. At any given time only one database is active. If this one database goes down, the second database will come up automatically. Okay, so now it's going to use MySQL community. I am going to use the latest version 8.4.8. I don't want to set up anything else, so I'm going to use my database name as Cloud Web App 2 database 1, right? And what is my master username? It's going to be node app, right? I told you already. And I'm not going to use secret manager just to avoid complexity, so I'm just going to go with self management. So I'm going to provide my own password, and I'm going to give my own password, which is student12. So remember, I'm not going to change anything much. So student12. So it says it's very weak, and it's okay, just for the testing purpose, student12. And I'm going to put everything same. Now it says it's going to create M76 large, which I don't want. I don't want such a big computer, right? What type of computer I actually need is so what do I need? the database type that I wanted, it was written in the notepad, right? I wanted a dbt3.micro, a very small computer I want. So let me go ahead and db t3. Okay, so t3 has to be down. Oh, it says db.t3. Why it doesn't show up? Okay, maybe, sorry, what's happening? Okay, for some reason I don't know what is happening here. This I have to select the compute instance, but anyway, I just wanted to show you that okay, the lab, it's not opening up we need to select the instance type. Okay, so now it is showing up. So I was not sure, maybe I need to include previous generation classes, or I don't know. db.t3, does it show up? I wanted this, right? It's not loading. Why? Anyway, so storage type, yeah, so db.t3, it doesn't show up. So I showed you, okay, burstable, this says password is, so I need the T class, that's why I need to create burstable classes, and now I have t3.micro. But I think I'll go with t2. Do we have a t2? That's the question, because the database gets very slow. This has got 2 RAMs, 2 GB RAM and 2 CPUs. This has got 4 GB RAM. So let me go with db t3.small, but that's better. So because I mentioned a weak password, so I'll go with general purpose. That's why that pop-up message is coming up. So what type of computer I need? So I need a 20 GB SSD type. So SSD is already selected, right? Oh, there are different types of SSDs. So since it didn't mention which type of SSD, I'm just going to go ahead with whatever SSD it gave me, right? So I went with for some reason this thing is running slow. Maybe many people are using, but since I selected an instance, it is allowing me to select the VPC. So I'm going to select my VPC, Cloud Web App 2. I'm going to go ahead with the other configuration and let it load. And then subnet group, I've already attached in that VPC. I've created a subnet group database, right? Cloud Web App 2. So this is what I'm selecting, and it says RDS doesn't assign a public IP, which is okay. Then the security group, it is asking me, which I already, so I don't want the default security group, right? Which I want my security group to be attached to this, which is Cloud Web App 2. Rest of the things I'm going to keep the same. So I don't want any monitoring to be done, so I'm going to unnecessarily, those are the extra things which we don't want. The costing is very high. DB instance $49, storage 92. So we need to, it says DB insights, it doesn't give me an option not to select it. What is the additional configuration? Okay, 3306 is okay. And what do we have over here? We don't want to enable any backups. We don't want to enable any encryption. We don't want auto minor version upgrade. So these are all additional things. I don't know why the cost is so high. So we definitely need to, okay, so here we are going to go with performance scales independently from storage, GP3, both are GP3s. Oh, it's only one GP3, okay. And this we need 20 GB, right? We don't want much. Actually, we don't need even 20 GB. Yeah, okay, this is the machine. It's selected as CG medium. And we wanted a burstable medium. Why is showing me all this? This is not the right machine. I want DB, it's not going to show me. It suddenly stopped showing T3. The T class Y. See, the storage price has gone down, but the DB instance is not right. So I'm not sure exactly why this is happening. Maybe what is this? Why? Okay, this, why it gone with this option? It has to be this. Dev test multi-easy. Okay, so now so because of that option, certainly my instance type was different. So let's now go ahead and select this t3.small. So now I got my database back, and now if you see the costing, it is 54.24. so now I think we are almost good to go ahead and create a database, but we are just going to verify. So that's a security group which where we have opened 3306. That's a VPC, and that's a subnet group, DB subnet group, where 1A and 1B, and it is a multi-zone, right? So we have selected this. Automatically it is going to create one read-write database here and one read-write database here, but this one is going to be passive and this one is going to be active. So this is a high availability thing that we wanted to create. So I think and database username password, as I told you, node app, password is student12. Does it give me the option to create a database? Okay, so here is the database name. So as I told you, I want my database name to be students. So I don't want to change anything from what the lab wants, so I just going to go with students. Everything else remains the same. That was only configuration that was left, and I'm going to say create database. So now what will this do? This will ideally create two databases in two private subnets, and so it's going to create a database server, and on that database server it is going to create a database called students. That is what it is happening. So it's going to take time. It takes time. Okay, so it says it has successfully created my database now. So my database is good, and why it says is modifying. It should be maybe I should wait. Anyway, so before while it does whatever it does, what we want to make sure is we have to, I told you about the endpoints, right? So this is the endpoint which we are going to use to access our database from the web server box. So you just want to keep this handy so that you can use it later, right? So this is our database endpoint. This is as good as connecting to the database. This is as good as specifying the machine name and the database server where we want to connect, right? And by default it will connect to students database if we use the correct username. So username is node app, password I've already told you. Okay, so while it is doing this, so what have we done so far? Do we have any diagram? Okay, so remember, we have not created this EC2 box as yet, right? So we have a public private subnet where our database is created, right? And we have created a multi-AZ database. So one of our private subnets exists over here in which another database exists. So it's a standby copy, right? That's how we have created. And what else we did? We got an endpoint, and the endpoint is pointing to our database students, right? So the database is also created. Now we want to add some rows into it. So how do you add some rows into it? So in order to add some rows, we can either use as I told you, the test machine we can create over here and do it, but let us try a different way. What we'll do is, we from our laptop or wherever, we are going to SSH into the box, means log in remotely. Oh no, we cannot log in remotely because we don't have the PEM file. No, so that is not, so we have to go with Cloud9 test machine. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a test machine over here for the time being, right? So using Cloud9, so this is going to be a test machine, let's say 2. And using this machine since it is within the network, it will have access to this, because I've already told in the security group that all machines within this network will have access. From this machine we are going to fire our SQL queries. We are going to try to connect to our database endpoint through and going to fire the queries to insert queries. So you're going to insert some rows and see whether everything is okay. Now the bottom 2 boxes, they are already created. Remember, the 2 databases are already created. Now we are going to create a test machine and fire some queries and add some rows into it. Okay, the good thing is the status is available now, so that's a good thing. So no issues. So how do you create a test machine? So you can go to Cloud9 now. In this case, that will be the better option, because we don't have the PM file for the EC2 machine in EC2 machine created in the private subnet. So here I already have previous test machine, so we don't want to, that is belonging in the different subnet. So I'll create an environment and I'll say this is my test machine 2. I'll say this is the machine used to access all machines in my VPC Cloud Web App 2, and I'll say create a new instance. So I'll say create a t2.micro, very small computer, and but I want to purposely use Ubuntu just in case some of my commands actually, should I do this? No, I shouldn't do this, because in order to fire the SQL queries I might require MySQL, and I don't want to install MySQL. But anyway, I'm just, for the testing purpose, in order to show you, I'm just going to anyway do it. So access this environment via SSM without opening inbound port, so this is fine. VPC settings, so I need to mention the VPC that it will create the machine in, right, which is Web App 2, Cloud Web App 2 VPC. And which subnet I want to create it in the public subnet, because public subnet will have access to both the web server as well as my database. So public 1A. So that is where my machine is going to get created. So I'm going to use Systems Manager to access the machine. I think rest remains same. So let me go ahead with a little bigger computer, T3 though small, because it gets slow at times. So this is how we are going to create a Cloud9. I'm going to create a machine which you are going to access through the Cloud9. So I'm going to create it. So what is happening now? So I'm creating a machine, this test machine 2 in public subnet. So remember that. So if there is an error, creating IAM resources needed for SSM connection. I'm not sure why. So let me just go with secure shell maybe. I hope there's no other problem, I can access it. So essentially it says it is going to use a SSH SSH. Okay, so let's go ahead and create it, and if there's an error we'll come back. Okay, so it is creating a machine 2. This is it'll take several minutes, so let me wait till this message shows success. Okay, so it says successfully created test machine 2, which is in my public subnet. Now I can open this machine and log in and access that machine. So it is trying to open that machine and give you a kind of a command line interface and show you all the files, etc. So you can do your programming. It is like your Visual Studio Code. So it's like an IDE, integrated development environment. So Cloud9 is an integrated development environment for, you can say, programming, and just like similar to your VS Code. So let it open. So what do we do? So let's close this. Okay, so now we are on this box, and let me drag this. So we have a terminal over here, right? I can fire my terminal commands. So this is going to be very minute. So this machine, I know it has access to my other machine. So how do I verify this? Okay, so let me oops, where did I go? Hold on. Okay, so what I may need MySQL on that box. So I don't think MySQL will be installed on that box if I on that test machine. So how do we verify if MySQL is there or not? So what I can, it's a environment, right? It's, I'm on this box, so I can say MySQL -- version. Is it there? I'm not sure. Oh, it's already there. 8.0.4.45 is installed by default on Ubuntu. So that's great. So having done that, I can run MySQL command. So if you notice this command, MySQL -h, then I have to give the endpoint name, which means the database where I want to connect. Then I want to connect through port number 3306. Username is node app. Password is student12. And here in the end I give my you can say your query. In this case it is trying to create a database. So now it requires a global bundle pim file, so I guess you have to download it. Okay, so before I run the query, I need the global bundle pm. It's a public private key file which is used to do the SSH access. So this is the website you're going to use. So I'm going to share this file on the folder. So the way you can get it is in the lab section. I have a mini project, right? So I'm going to add that command to download the global PM file. So what we do is, so I'm going to create the file as we are moving forward. So this is the first query we need to file. We need to download the PM file, right? So can I increase the font? Okay, so that you can see it very clearly. Just let me make the font a little smaller. So that way you know how it is placed. And hold on. Okay. So later I'm going to copy this command, Control C. I'm going to share this file later, so don't worry. And where do I go? I go to my test machine, right? So on my test machine I'm going to download that file, paste, and it will try to download. So now if I do an ls command here, I am finding my global bundle.pm file. It has downloaded. Now I can go ahead and fire the query. Now how will the query look like? So again I'm going to share this query with you, so don't worry. So that's the second command we want to fire, is a query. The only difference is the endpoint, which is, this is older endpoint. So we want to, what is my endpoint? My endpoint, I saved it somewhere, right? I saved it in this file. So let me copy that endpoint and say I want to connect to this database. So rest of it will remain same. Okay. So hopefully, okay, that says capital student 12. I have given small student 12, right? This is not the password, this is the password, small student 12, for some reason. No problem. And I don't want to fire a query over there. I want to use the database students, right? It is already there. If it connects, it will connect to the database. And after this I want to insert some queries, right? Sorry, I want to create a table. So hold on. So I'm going to use the same query to create the table which that script is using, which is this one. I'm not going to change anything over here. I'm going to create the table as it is. And so my query, so this is my entire query. So this should create the table called, the database name is capital students, but the table name is small students, and the password is student 12. So let's see whether, if everything is good, we should be able to connect. So this is the file, steps to create rows in MySQL database. I'm going to upload it later if everything goes fine. So what I need to do, I need to paste my command here, and it says error, SQL connection error, default verify paths failed. Okay, so I have a feeling that because we are using SSH, an SSH port number 22 is not open in the security group. What we have opened is 3306, yes, but it is also SSH at the same time. So first it connects, remotely logs in, and then it connects to the port inside to 3306. So for SSH permission, I think that is the problem. So how are we going to do it? So we need to modify the security group. And security group, where have we defined? We have defined security group in so how do we go to home? So let me open up and go back and modify the security group and allow port number 22. So I think I forgot to add that, and I think that is the problem. So I will go to VPC, that's where my security group is created. And security groups is right here down. Then where is my security group? So this is the one, right? Cloud Web App 2 Database Security Group. I think I should just mention it here also, so that I can find it easily. Web App 2 Database Security Group, so that I can find it very easily. It's written here. So let me select that one and modify it. So I need to modify the inbound rule. So let me drag this up and go into inbound rules. So I already have a few inbound rules for 3306, and here you see the 3306, and for ICMP. So now I'm going to edit inbound rules. I'm going to add a rule, and this time I'm going to say I want access for SSH. SSH over here. Yeah. So it will open up port number 22, and again I will give access only to my test machine for the time being. So which is 10.1.0. I hope I've got the CID right. So 3306 is open for the database access, but to remotely log in you need 22, which is SSH. That's how Cloud9 accesses. So now that I've given permission to my inbound security group rules added successfully, I can go ahead and maybe verify once again. This is the one, and I have three rules now: SSH 22, MySQL 3306, and ICMP is for pinging. So which is not required for now, but at least we do this SSH. So now I go back to Cloud9 and try to repeat my query. So I had my query saved over here. So in your case you need to change the endpoint, okay? The rest of the queries part will remain the same. I think this has to be on single line. I'm not very sure. So let me just run this part of the query just to make sure my line, because of my multi-line command, this is not causing problem. So I'll say use database students, and I'll say show I think show databases, use database students, show tables. So ideally I should not see any tables, right? Because I have not created any table. So let's only fire this much query. If the connection works successfully, then we can please reload the window. Okay. So let us see, let us try. I hope we have not been logged out. Okay, so my machine is back. The session had timed out probably, so I just went back and I opened Cloud9 again. So let me clear the screen first. What happened? I don't know why it's showing this. Anyway, so let me paste my command. Is my command right? MySQL, this is this, -p -u, use database students, show tables. Hopefully, please work. For some reason it's slow. Okay, so the thing is, the test machine 2 was created, the Cloud9 test machine 2 was created in a different zone, 1B, whereas my database is in 1A. So I'm not sure if that is causing the problem. So I'm going to try and I'm going to delete this machine. And so let me go ahead and delete this machine anyways, and create a new machine properly in zone A. Okay, so deleting this can take several minutes, so let it go ahead and delete. In the meantime, I don't know why by mistake I created in zone B. So I'll say this time this is test machine 3. Okay, let me not put any description for now. Let it create a new EC2 instance, and this time I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to put e2.micro. I don't want any complexity, but I do want Ubuntu, and I have to use secure shell. In VPC setting, here is where I need to be careful. I selected a wrong zone, web app 2. So I had to select public. By mistake I selected the first one. I'm supposed to select 1A. So maybe Cloud9 has to be in the same zone. I'm not very sure, but let us go ahead with that and experiment. And so my zone is correct, right? 1A. public 1A, okay, and Ubuntu. So my machine 3 is getting created. Okay, so here the ChatGPT, if you notice, it says in RDS the source should be Cloud9 instance security group. So in the security group I need to allow Cloud9 security group for some reason. So maybe I'm not sure if that is the problem, because the instance is created in any instance created in the VPC should have the same. So I don't think this is a problem, but still it says, so I'm going to check this and get back. So I need to add this to the security, this security group ID to the, I need to add the security group to the access to the database. Okay, so it gets a little tiring. So how do I do that? I'm in VPC, then go to the security groups. Where are the security groups? Can I see? I'm a little tired now. Okay, here it is. And I'm not very sure about this, but we'll check. Last time I accessed the machine from the web server and it worked, but it's okay. So where is our security group? So this is a security. I hope we on the inbound rules. Okay, it doesn't drag up much. So let us edit this rule and we'll add one more rule if it is possible. So let's add one more access, and this time we want to give Cloud9 if it is there. I don't see any Cloud9. Sorry, so what access I want to give? Do we have so many things such as Cloud9? Okay, it says Cloud9 test machine 3. Okay. So let us give access to Cloud9 test machine 3 and see. That's my machine. Does it allow? You may not specify reference group ID for an existing. Okay. What's happening? Let me cancel this first. So let me edit. Let me add a new rule which is SSH, and let's see whether this works. Okay, so I've added a security group of the Cloud9 test 3. I think it is SSH access I need to give, but let me Just verify and come back. Okay, so it says I need to give Cloud9 access to MySQL 3306 and not SSH. So let me try that. Again, I'm going to go to MySQL. So 3306 can be accessed by my Cloud9 test machine 3, and save the rules. Hopefully it will be saved, right? So let's verify once again if it is saved. So this is my Cloud Web App 2 database access group, and I have 4 rules. One of the access is given to Cloud9, so my Cloud9 can access my database. So now I go back to my test machine. So this is timed out. So let me close this. Let me go to Cloud9 and open the machine again. So hopefully it will initialize back again, and let's hope for the best. So this step I had done differently when I was doing the previous time. I didn't use Cloud9 last time. I used website machine. So not sure if this solves the problem, but let's see. Okay, so now we'll close this. Now I don't see my, okay, I need to download my global PM file. That part is missing. So let me go ahead and do that. Maybe this was the problem, I'm not sure. Paste. Okay, so now the file is downloaded. You can see over here global bundle PM, and my next query is going to be the database is the same, right? And I'm just going to say show me just the tables. Use database and show me the tables, and hopefully I hope it works. I'm going to paste my query. Oops. Okay, it still does not work. Okay, so due to the time constraint, we will do things little differently. Instead of wasting our time, so we'll let our test machine be there, but for now, at least in this particular video, we'll create make sure this database is created, and in the next video I'm going to try and do things little different. I'm going to try and solve this problem for you. We are also going to create a website, and we'll see how to make things work from there, and but we'll add our rows in our next video and do our website. So for now, let's wrap this up. Thank you.